If there's anything my channel probably doesn't need more of, it is probably lesbian sex advice videos, but here we are, we're filming another. Recently, I had just been talking about a sexual interaction I had a few years ago, long before I met Daisy. And this conversation got me thinking about red and green flags when it comes to intercourse with somebody, especially a new partner. So I thought, why not talk about that today? Because that isn't something I've done on my channel. And yes, I've made lots of sex advice videos. You can check out the whole playlist, but I have not done some red and green flags. And so I came up with a list of 5 red flags and 5 green flags when it comes to having intercourse. Of course, these could apply to anybody. You don't actually have to be a woman-loving woman or a lesbian or bisexual or any of that. You can literally just be human, and this can definitely apply to you. I thought, since I'm talking about lesbian sex in today's video, that I would just share from my perspective. Before we get into all the red flags, I did want to talk about my experience, because I feel like me just saying, oh, I had this experience where there was a ton of red flags, you're gonna be like, wait, we need to hear the story. So let me just share the story before we even get into the red flags. So let's get into the story. The story takes place when I had just moved back to LA, and I had been on dating apps, and I got to know, a couple of people, and I went on a date with this girl. We went and got beers. It was really good. And then we went on a second date. And at the second date, we decided to get tacos and some drinks, and it was really nice. And then afterwards, she was like, let's go to this bar. I know of a really cool bar. And I said, okay. And then she was like, oh, well, why don't we just park at my house? Because the bar is right down the street from my house and we can walk there. And obviously I agreed to this because I did go, but that should have been red flag number 1. We go to drop our cars off at her house, and once we park, she says, you know what, never mind. I don't even want to go to the bar. Let's just have drinks here at my place. And that should have been red flag number 2, because we definitely did not discuss even going into her house. It wasn't even like that. Like, that wasn't even the vibes I was really getting when we were back at the restaurant. So we go in, obviously I'm agreeing to all these things. I could have said no to any of it, but I go in and one thing leads to another and we have sex. Now, this sex was the worst sex I probably have ever had in my life. It was very rough and not in a good way, very just like poking, in a poking way, I'll put it that way. And it was very one-sided. Like, she was just doing things to me and she didn't want me to do anything to her, which is totally fine, but it was just not good, which is totally fine for some people, but it was just not good for me, and it hurt. And like I said, we had gone on one date before, but we really did not even discuss sex. And sometimes one thing leads to another and it can be a very good experience, but this one was just not it. What I've gathered from this whole situation are a few red flags, at least for me, and I wanted to share them because I feel like they're kind of universal red flags that I think everyone should kind of follow, especially when it comes to being intimate with somebody. I do also want to talk about green flags, so we're gonna go back and forth. First thing is communication. Now, communication on both sides. Communication is a great thing to have, especially if you're going to be intimate with somebody, and really want to communicate before, during, and after sex, because you never know where someone's head is at unless you communicate. In my personal situation, we did not communicate about having sex, about the things that we liked, about things we didn't like. We didn't communicate at all. And then during sex, we didn't communicate when things were uncomfortable because we weren't really in a situation where we felt comfortable. At least I didn't. And communication is key during sex as well. And then afterward, just to make sure that the person feels okay afterwards, I just didn't feel any of those things. And so overall communication was lacking. And so communication is definitely a green flag if you're able to do it, and it's definitely a red flag if you're not able to do it. The next thing that I want to talk about is your comfortability with this person. So for a green flag, it would be if you're feeling comfortable to be yourself, to be honest with yourself, to be real with yourself, to be real and honest with them, and to just be comfortable within yourself. If you feel a sense of comfort, then you're in the right place. So I would say if you're feeling comfort, then that is a green flag. For a red flag, I think of disconnected sex. When a person is not fully there with you, when you can tell that, or when you're not fully there, if you are just not feeling it, your head is somewhere else, you can tell their head is somewhere else, that is a red flag. You want to be present and in the moment. And if you're not, you shouldn't be there, you know? It shouldn't be something that you're doing if you're not fully invested in it. The next one for a green flag goes hand in hand with the last one, and it is to be open and honest. And it goes hand in hand with both of the last ones. You have to be comfortable, and you have to be yourself, and you have to be open and honest with all of those things. If you feel like the person is being open and honest with you and you're being open and honest with them, then I think that's a very good green flag, and you should feel super confident that you're in a good place. A red flag that I kind of mentioned in my story of this sexual interaction I had was that things were very one-sided. And in some cases that can be perfectly fine, especially if you agree to it. If you only want to be a giver or a receiver that day, that is completely fine. And if you both communicate that that's what the plan is, then you're good to go. But when things feel like they're one-sided, like that person is making all the choices, whether they want to give or receive or whatever it is, if it feels like the other person is the one in charge and that doesn't feel like what you want to do, then that is fully a red flag, and you should definitely call them on that. A green flag is when someone can admit to their mistakes and apologize if they do something that crosses a boundary or anything like that. When people can say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that this made you feel a certain way, and they can pull back and comfort you after making a mistake, then I think that is a green flag. Because sometimes if you aren't fully communicating, someone could cross a boundary, someone could do something that you don't really like, and as long as you say, hey, I don't really like that, and they say, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize, I won't do that anymore, then I think you're in the right place, and it's a green for me. A red flag would be if they are being extremely judgmental. If you feel like you're being judged for the things that you like or the things that you don't like, if they're making you feel bad about any of it, then that is definitely a red flag. You need to withdraw from that situation, because you should be feeling 100% comfortable in being yourself, especially in the bedroom. And if you're not, you shouldn't be with that person. They're not meant for you, and you should never be feeling bad about yourself because someone else is doing that to you. So that would be a hard red flag for me. A green flag that I want to mention is when someone recognizes your emotions in bed. I think that is the most sexy thing ever, when someone knows how you're feeling and they can read your body language and they can read, your communication. You guys are on the same page and they just understand you. Then I think that is a green flag. Sometimes you could be feeling like you want to be sensual. Sometimes you want to be a little more erotic and crazy. When someone can read that energy and just go with it, then that is a green flag for me. And my last red flag in this video is that they don't make an effort to make you feel safe. If someone isn't making an effort to make you feel 100%, especially in the bedroom, then that is a red flag and they don't deserve to be with you. So if you don't feel 100% safe with them, then it's a no for me, and it can't be 99%. You gotta feel 100% safe, 100% like this is what you wanna do. If you feel any pressure, then you should not be in that room, and you should do anything you can to get out of that situation. Don't let red flags slide by. Sex can be a very easy thing, but it can also be a very complicated thing. You really want to make sure that you're 100% comfortable with them before you get in the bedroom. I think that's been some of my mistakes in the past, like especially with this story that I told you. I had only known this person for not that long. We never talked about sex. We never talked about any of it. And so that should have been a red flag just in itself. And sometimes you can have a one-night stand, and I'm not slut shaming anybody, but at the end of the day, sex is something that can get really complicated and messy if you're not on the same page with the person. But definitely be aware of some of those red flags, be aware of the green flags, and do what makes you feel comfortable and safe. Never settle for anything less than what makes you feel 100%. Hopefully you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below what are some of your red flags and green flags. I would love to hear. Also, be sure to check out my playlist of all my other lesbian sex videos, and I'll see you over there. Bye.